So our pal John Keim covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Hey, John.
Jake.
What up, fellas?
Are you at the airport or on your way?
I'm on my way to the airport, but so my guy Pudge told me I need a faster warm-up song music. So
really?
Yeah,
I like that song.
Rosalita. I do too, but Pudge thought it has to be faster. I don't know. You guys can take a vote.
Who's Pudge?
Who's
Pudge?
Pudge?
Is the Madison baseball coach. Shout out. He always listens.
No,
okay,
I like
okay.
I like Rosalita.
All right.
Okay, listen. That's my song. But
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. So shout out Pudge. I got you on
You
the
should
air.
have heard Jonathan Allen's walk-up song last year. What was his walk-up?
It was like a gospel
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, it was like a gospel
It
song.
wasn't
Okay.
great.
Oh,
It just depends on what you like. If you like it,
it's your
that's gonna-
thing.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's
All
your
right.
signature.
Then I think that's gotta be
real
it.
quick before we dive into some of the ugly details of the game, can you fill us in on the injury front? What are the Commanders looking at?
Sure. Listen, we'll find out later. Austin Eckler is getting more tests today. I think you can put 1 + 1 = 2 here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He was carted off. It's an Achilles. He looked really down,
Yep.
very down after the game. He's got a walking boot on. He's with crutches. Like, again, 1 + 1 = 2 here. There's just no official confirmation. I think he'll be going to get tested today. Should hopefully find out early this evening.
I felt horrible for him.
Yeah, no, I mean, because listen, man. First of all, he's a good player.
Yep.
He's a leader in that room. And then you work your whole year for this, and then when you get to be an older player and you have to go through rehab, it's really, really tough. And I think anybody who has that, especially early in the year, where it's tough. But yeah, and then Dietrich Wise with the quad injury, clearly that doesn't look good. Again, more tests today, and we'll find out more. I think we'll find out more later on him today. I think with Bates with the groin, Noah Brown with the groin, won't find anything out until Monday.
Okay.
And even then, I don't know if they're going to know how the severity of it. Bates I saw him walk in the locker room last night, but after the game, but I don't know that we'll know the severity, but we'll have more of an update on them on Monday.
All right, so even before the injuries, it kind of looked grim early on. Obviously, defensively didn't have the same kind of effort against the Giants. This is a much better Packer team on both sides of the football. So that was a little disheartening to see, maybe to be expected, but a little disheartening. And then offensively, now it's 2 games now we're just not in sync. And listen, they're tough asks. I mean, Connerly's going against Burns and Abdul Carter and Micah, but just a rough start for the offense. Don't look in sync. And my opinion of this football team, I have to say, is drastically different this morning than it was going into that game. That just looked like a much better football team than we are.
Well, yes, they did. I mean, they controlled it on both sides of the ball. I mean, there was never a time where I felt like even last year this one was a blowout. The Eagles game and the championship game, that was a blowout.
Yeah.
But you can look and say, okay, all those turnovers. And there were times where those guys, Washington moved the ball, and they were defensively they did nothing that game. But offensively, there were times like, hey, it was just the turnovers. There was nothing last night. Like, they had no turnovers, no penalties. Last week, again, I felt like last week, the encouraging thing to me about the game was, hey, you didn't play very well, and you still hung up 430 yards.
Right.
Should have had 30 points. You could see the time and all that. Last night, they never really got anything going. And I know they got some yards late, but man, it took a long time. And that's, and even when they was down a touchdown, it's like, you really didn't feel like this is, now they're back in it, right? They were technically in it, but Green Bay was in control. So it's week 2, so you don't want to overreact to things. But I just would have liked to have seen a better showing, getting some sort of rhythm on offense. For sure. And defensively, I felt like going in, the Giants are a bad offense. And so that, you take that into account, but they did exactly what they should. But last night they just had a lot of trouble in coverage. And they had the Packers, like one thing you knew going in, like the Packers love to attack against man coverage. These guys love to play press man. Okay, go do it. And it wasn't always in press man, but they had so many answers for that with the way they used the motion and a lot of play action stuff that it really hurt them. So yeah, just again, like even like Bobby Wagner, you don't panic after that game. I don't know. I think it takes a few weeks to really figure out what they are. I just think the troubling part was the lack of rhythm on offense. And not to ramble, last year, the first 2 games, offense was spotty. But the Giants game in that second game last year, they moved the hell out of the ball. They didn't punt. They just didn't knock it in the red zone. So you're kind of like, okay, well, you'll take that effort every game because eventually you're going to knock it through. There was very little last night that you would take from that game on offense.
John, if Tucker Kraft can do what he did last night to that defense in the secondary, what is Brock Bowers going to do when the Raiders come to town next weekend?
Well, different offense. I mean, you know what I mean? So I don't, the Raiders have a different one. I mean, it's not like, they have a quarterback who will throw the ball down the field too. And they have some other receivers that they can use too. So, yeah, I mean, that was bad. So, and the troubling part to me was just he got lost in coverage. It happened a couple times. Like, how? So like that was the hard part. But yeah, Brock Bowers obviously very good, but that's a much different team. I think offensively, I would say Washington will be in a better spot for that game.
One would hope.
Now, here's the other part too. Because I know at some point it comes up with Terry McLaurin, right? And, I was talking to Terry afterwards, like, it took him a few games last year to get going. The difference, obviously, is he wasn't in camp, but also, like, last summer in camp, you saw the chemistry. You knew it would come together because you saw it, right? And we saw it all last year. So eventually it's going to get there, but is it just going to get there, overnight, or is this going to take a couple more weeks? I don't know.
John, building off of what you saw in camp, a lot of people saw a Marshawn Lattimore that was healthy, but man,
and I thought
he's getting attacked by our callers today. It obviously wasn't pretty for him.
Well,
what did you see?
Bickle and Cakes basically want to cut him.
Well, he's getting attacked by opposing offensive coordinators.
What did you see? Not in the game. What did you see in camp from Marshawn? Because some people were high, and then were you surprised at what you saw in the game yesterday?
Well, what we saw in camp was a guy who was healthy. That's what we saw. And so you did, but I always would have to preface things. And even like with Amos, now you saw the traits, right, for Amos. So that was a little bit different. But with Lattimore, you saw that he was healthy. He could drive on the ball, but we didn't see him against the kind of receivers he was going to face. And I would always try to preface that whenever I talk about him in camp and how he looked. It's like, this is where I wish they had a Terry McLaurin in camp, because then you could see him against the kind of receivers he's going to face during the season. And so you weren't really sure. But yeah, no, he's got to play better.
Do you think Joe Witt, do you think Witt and DQ are concerned about him?
I don't think yet, because I don't know. I can't say that, but because I don't know, but I think they seem to be encouraged by what they saw this summer with the way he was moving, et cetera. That, let's see how it plays out. But that was, last night was tough.
Now, with the running back injury to Eckler, and I felt horrible for him. I would, if it's a torn Achilles, I would almost call it a career ender, just based on his age. But we'll see. But that running back room is very thin. Now, obviously, Rodriguez on the practice squad, he'll be called up. Do you think they're concerned about how thin it is now, considering their starter is now going to be Bill, if not Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think you have to be, because there isn't a lot of. You now have, who's your guy that for a whole year what they're going to do. You don't have that guy. McNichols was a good backup for them, does great on special teams, but he's never been a primary back. And do you have that? You don't have that. He can play as a third down guy, but you don't really have that kind of guy. So at the end of the summer, it sounded like they were looking around at some running backs, guys who are cut, seeing what might happen. I think you have to take a look at that, because you don't have, they like their depth going into the year. That's partly why they said they traded Brian Robinson. But now, like, you lost your top back, and the most experienced back, it's a tough one, because again, Rodriguez he's had a couple of nice moments in games, but more often than not, inactive. And Croskey-Merritt has just got here. We don't know what he can really do over the course of several weeks, even. So it's a tough one.
How did you think Jaden played through the ball? His numbers weren't good. I just noticed he just seemed out of sync, kind of like last week, even though his numbers were good last week. But what did you say?
The offense is out of sync, and it does. When Green Bay's speed and the ability to keep him in that pocket,
right,
was a big factor. Like he couldn't get out because sometimes it's a shooter in basketball. Sometimes you need a layup to get going. You need a couple quick shots to get going. He could never get that, and sometimes that would be provided with his legs, and he never really could get that because he wasn't going to get that against them. And so there was never really a great rhythm. And sometimes you get that pass rush, it's going to speed you up. It's going to mess with your head a little bit, just from the timing aspect. There are times where, maybe there's something might be available, but guys are in his face or there. And so maybe you can't get to the progressions the way you want or get through it. And so it's got to start like you have to protect him better than that, period.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you're not going to face, like they may have faced their top two defensive line, their best two defensive line that they'll face. They faced them, may have already faced them. So that, we'll see how it goes from here. But they need to get that rhythm going. And even in the summer, the passing game didn't have that rhythm consistently. And part of that was, again, McLaurin and Noah Brown not being out there. So those two have to get together because they haven't been making the big plays down the field. And that's what they need. And last night, like the corners were just sitting on the receivers. I'm squatting on them. And so they knew the pressure was coming in fast. They knew they'd have to go to a quick game. So they really couldn't get anything down the field. I think that's the kind of stuff you need to get to start getting that rhythm to feel better about what you're doing.
What does John Keim lay the odds at another kicker being in camp this week?
This week? Well, here's the thing. Like, nobody should be surprised that he missed from beyond 50 because
that's what he does.
That's what has happened. Now, before last year, he was actually really good at it. But since the start of last season, he has not been. And that we saw that this summer, and we saw it again last night. So now he had the distance, so that and the one, but like that's if you don't have the distance on those, then you've got to bring somebody in. I don't know that they will. I have not heard that. I mean, obviously it's a couple hours removed from the game, but so I don't know that last night would have changed that because it's kind of what he's shown. I mean, he was 1 for 3 in that from there, and that's basically what he was. That's the same percentage he was last year from that distance.
John, did Frankie Louvu make the trip? Did he actually go to?
Was he there?
It's funny because during the game, I was like, he hasn't made that play yet. And so no. I mean, it was. I really like Matt LaFleur is a very good offensive coach, and I think they had a really good plan for them. And again, so much play action, so much motion. But I did not. I wondered. He did not have an impact.
What was the mood of the guys afterwards? I mean, obviously, I'm sure they're down. Jaden said very little when he was at the podium.
Right. Yeah, no.
I mean, is there any sort of, I don't know, any reflection on where they are? Do they just say, short week, bad luck, let's just get out,
good team.
New week?
Listen, if you just dismiss it to a short week, you're doing yourself a disservice. And because then you're not going to take anything from this other than, it was a short week. Like they had a short week going to Philly last year, and it was, they looked better, right? And not great, but better. And so you can't just use that. So I think a lot of what it was is learn from it, don't panic because it's only week 2. And I think because if this had happened last year, I think you maybe they wouldn't, but I think we all would even look at it even different. But after last, that there's a good team there. But you didn't see it last night.
Well, you saw a really good team in Green Bay, and I keep pointing this out. Just like context mattered when you beat up on the Giants and that inept offense. Right. The context is this is a team that held the Lions to 13 points a week ago, which is 20 points below their average from a year ago.
Right. And that, so, I mean, it's a really, really good defense, very fast. And that's why it's funny because I thought there were a couple of things that these guys could do that could hurt, that could possibly not hurt Green Bay, but combat that. Like, for example, like Green Bay was excellent at disguising coverage against the Lions. Really, really good. So you can help that by going tempo. You can help that by going more spread and empty formations just to kind of regulate the coverage. And then I thought, like, the speed of that defense, could you get the linebackers that they're very aggressive hitting that line. Could you get them to hesitate a little bit by some of the run game action? The problem is, if you do that against them, they're so fast. Some of those fakes, it's not going to matter. They'll tack you 5 yards deep.
Yeah, I mean, they snuffed out all. I've brought this up a couple times on the show, like the wide receiver screens, the quick passes. Yeah, they snuffed all of that out, and that was a big part of Kingsbury's offense last year.
For sure. Well, they did, and again, that's that speed, and they make you play probably. They just make you play at a different level, right? You have to, because to combat that speed, but they are fast. I think that I just go back to that too. Like, when you want to look at, I felt like this team defensively certainly did not play with that same speed. They don't have that same speed, but Green Bay has it. And then you add Micah Parsons up front, which is kind of their last piece. Listen, man, their corners are not considered to be like a strength of this defense. You wouldn't know that.
No, it's a legit defense. Look, even if you look at the playoffs last year, the Eagles only scored 22 points against them. And that's the Super Bowl winning team. And that was when they picked off Jordan Love 3 times. Yeah. It's a hard defense to put up yardage and points against.
Well, and that's why you have to put everything in context. Just like last week, like, yes, it was a very good opening win, but the Giants offense is that, but you did what you should. But I do think it's where, the passing game didn't have the rhythm last week, right? And then, so you're facing a really good defense. It's where you're going to be in week 17, not now.
Yep.
And so, like, that matters. And I think that's what you asked with the players. That's how the players are going to approach it, for sure. So I know in the NFL, it's really hard for fans, for media. It's week 1 to week 2. Everything just feels like it's Super Bowl 1 week, and then, top 5 draft pick the next. So
the sky's not falling.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they have the Raiders. They beat them. If they can beat them, you're 2-1. You're okay.
Yep. John, always appreciate the time. It's John Keim, covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, buddy.
As I mentioned, if you go back to the playoffs when Green Bay got bounced out by the Eagles didn't even have 300 yards of offense. That is a legit defense.
And you add Micah to it. You're right.
All right, got to take a break. Coming up next, Merrill Hodge will join us, former NFL running back, now an analyst. We'll be right back.